Commander James Stone walked through the gleaming hallways of the Galactic Council's main station, his boots making soft sounds against the polished floor. Even after 6 months as Earth's military liaison, he still felt small among the towering alien architecture. The massive crystal windows showed the endless space beyond, dotted with the lights of thousands of ships coming and going from the station. Today was supposed to be a routine day. Another boring meeting about Earth's integration into the Council's defense network. Stone checked his tablet one more time, making sure he had all the right files for the meeting. Earth had joined the Galactic Council just 2 years ago, and everyone was still trying to figure out where humans fit in the grand scheme of things. As he approached the meeting room, he heard voices. Angry voices. Stone slowed his steps, years of military training kicking in. The voices were coming from a side room, its door slightly open. "These humans are perfect for our needs," a deep voice said. Stone recognized it as belonging to High Counselor Red Wing, one of the senior members of the council. They breed quickly, learn fast, and their natural aggression makes them ideal soldiers. "But can we trust them?" another voice asked. This one belonged to Greenscale, the council's military commander. "They're advancing too quickly." Stone pressed himself against the wall, his heart beating faster. He wasn't supposed to be hearing this. "Trust them." Red Wing laughed. "They're primitives who think they've been accepted as equals. They'll never suspect that we're just grooming them to be our new frontline troops. By the time they realize what's happening, it will be too late." The death rates in the outer conflicts, Greenscale started, "will be perfectly acceptable." Red Wing cut in. "Better their soldiers than ours, and their planet's resources will help fund our wars. It's the perfect solution." Stone felt sick. All the promises, all the talk of unity and progress, it had been lies. They saw humans as nothing but cannon fodder and Earth as a resource to exploit. He forced himself to breathe slowly and pulled out his tablet. With trembling fingers, he accessed the Council's network. His security clearance as a liaison officer should let him. There, hidden folders started appearing on his screen. Years of classified documents about the Council's true activities. They had done this before. Species after species, marked as primitive but useful, brought into the Council only to be used up in endless wars and stripped of their resources. Some races had been nearly wiped out, fighting battles they never knew were meaningless. Stone downloaded everything he could. The Council's security systems were good, but human hackers had already left their marks. Small backdoors, tiny gaps in the code, just as he'd been quietly trained to look for. Footsteps in the hallway made him move. Stone quickly walked away, trying to look casual as a group of council members passed by. They barely looked at him. Just another primitive human in their mighty station. 6 hours later, Stone sat in his private quarters, still going through the files. His hand shook as he composed a heavily encrypted message to Earth Command. The evidence was overwhelming. The Council had never seen humans as equals. Earth was just their newest source of soldiers and resources. He attached the most damning files to his message. Records of other species used up in wars. Plans for gradually taking control of Earth's military. Calculations of acceptable human casualty rates. Just before sending the message, Stone added a personal note. "We thought we were joining a civilization. We were wrong. They're not superior beings. They're just better liars. But they made one mistake. They underestimated us. And that will be their downfall." He pressed send and watched the message vanish into space, racing toward Earth at speeds the Council thought humans couldn't achieve yet. Then he carefully erased all traces of his discovery and prepared for tomorrow's meeting. He would smile, nod, and play the part of the simple human officer. But inside, he was already at war. The Council thought they were getting obedient soldiers. They were about to learn what human soldiers were really capable of. The real question wasn't how the Council would use Earth. The question was, how had they failed to notice that Earth was already using them? Admiral Kate Wells stood at the viewing window of her mining station, watching her real work take shape in the asteroid belt. To any Council sensors, this was just another human attempt at resource extraction. In reality, it was Earth's largest hidden shipyard. Status report. She called out to her command center. The massive underground chamber was carved into the heart of a metallic asteroid, carefully shielded from detection. Fleet Group 7 is ready. Admiral, her operations officer reported. We've masked their energy signatures as mining equipment. The Council's patrol just passed by without a second look. Kate smiled. The Council's arrogance was their greatest weakness. They were so convinced of human technological inferiority that they never looked too closely at Earth's primitive mining operations. And the new weapons systems, she asked, turning to Dr. Thomas Reed, who stood examining holographic blueprints. Better than we hoped, Reed answered, his eyes bright with excitement. We've successfully combined their shield technology with our missile guidance systems. The Council thinks we're still struggling to understand basic energy weapons, but we've already improved on their designs. A large display showed their hidden fleet. Hundreds of warships nestled in the shadows of asteroids, their hulls painted with fake rust and damage to look like mining vessels. Inside, they carried weapons that would make the Council's military leaders lose sleep if they knew they existed. Message from Earth Command, an officer called out. Commander Stone's last report confirms the Council is still unaware. They're actually reducing patrols in our system because they think we're, quote, advancing at an acceptable pace. Laughter rippled through the command center. The Council's ships were indeed reporting Earth's progress, exactly the progress Earth wanted them to see. Every failed experiment, every primitive attempt at copying Council technology was carefully staged. Show me the numbers, Kate ordered, moving to the central holotable. It lit up with statistics. Real fleet strength versus what the Council knew about, actual technology levels versus what Earth reported, and the growing network of allies among other primitive species. Look at this, Reed said, pointing to a section of data. The Council thinks we have maybe 50 ships capable of interstellar travel. We have over 500. They think our fastest ship can reach light speed. We broke that barrier 8 months ago. Kate nodded, studying the reports. And our ground forces. Colonel Martinez reports all Earth bases are ready, her staff officer replied. The Council's inspectors see outdated weapons and basic training facilities. They have no idea about the underground complexes or the new battle suits. A warning light flashed. Another Council ship approaching the asteroid belt. Within seconds, the command center transformed. Holographic displays vanished, replaced by simple mining charts. Officers quickly switched to their cover roles as mining administrators. The Council ship passed slowly, its sensors scanning the asteroid field. They saw exactly what Earth wanted them to see: primitive humans struggling with basic space mining, using outdated equipment and simple ships. They're leaving, the sensor officer reported after a few tense minutes. Their scan shows nothing unusual, just another routine check of the primitives. Kate allowed herself a small smile. How long until the fleet is fully ready? Reed checked his data. 4 more weeks. We're actually ahead of schedule, thanks to the Council giving us all their technical data. They thought we'd take years to understand it. We had it decoded and improved within months. Good, Kate said, watching the Council ship disappear into the darkness of space. Humanity spent centuries dreaming about reaching the stars. Now we're here, and they think they can use us as cannon fodder. She turned to face her crew, her voice firm but quiet. Continue the preparations. Let them think we're their obedient new servants. Let them dream about all the ways they'll use Earth and her people. And when the time comes, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the command center knew what was coming. The Council thought they were getting a new race of soldiers to command. Instead, they were about to face the most dangerous enemy they'd ever made, a humanity that knew it had been betrayed. In the asteroid belt, the hidden fleet waited, growing stronger every day. The Council's judgment was coming, and it would come from the simple primitives they had so badly underestimated. High Counselor Red Wing stood at his command center on Prima Station, the Council's primary military base in the Sol system. He was watching the latest report about Earth's military with satisfaction. "Send the order," he commanded. "Tell Earth we require their entire fleet for an urgent peacekeeping mission. It's time to put these humans to proper use." The message was sent. Red Wing waited for the usual quick, obedient response from Earth's supposedly primitive command structure. Instead, there was silence. No response from Earth Command. His communications officer reported, sounding confused, and were detecting some strange energy readings from their mining operations in the asteroid belt. Red Wing felt his first hint of unease. What kind of readings? Before anyone could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The main display lit up with hundreds of new contacts emerging from the asteroid belt. Ships, warships, were appearing everywhere, dropping their camouflage. "Impossible," Red Wing whispered. Where the Council had tracked 50 primitive human vessels, there were now over 500 advanced warships. Their design was unlike anything he'd seen, a perfect blend of Council technology and human innovation. "Message from the human fleet," the communications officer announced, voice shaking. Admiral Kate Wells appeared on the main screen. She wasn't wearing the simple uniform the Council had assigned to Earth's forces. Instead, she wore the full-dress uniform of Earth's Space Command, decorated with symbols the Council had never seen. "High Counselor," she said calmly, "we received your request for our fleet. Here it is." Red Wing tried to maintain his authority. "What is the meaning of this? Your ships are to be used as we direct." "No," Kate cut him off. "Those days are over. We know everything. Your plans to use us as cannon fodder, your exploitation of other species, all of it. Commander Stone sends his regards, by the way. He found your classified files quite interesting." Red Wing's blood ran cold. "You dare threaten the Council? Your primitive weapons are no match for." Kate smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "Primitive. Perhaps you should look closer at your sensor readings." Red Wing turned to his tactical display and froze. The human ships were putting out energy signatures far beyond what should have been possible. Their shields were operating on principles his scientists had only theorized about. "All ships, open fire," he ordered. "Show these primitives their place." The Council's defense fleet launched their attack. Their energy weapons, the pride of Council technology, flashed out toward the human ships. But the human vessels moved with impossible speed, their hulls absorbing or deflecting the Council's best weapons. "Return fire," Kate commanded quietly. The human fleet's response was devastating. Missiles carrying hybrid human Council technology slammed through the best Council shields. Energia beams, refined and improved by human engineers, cut through Council armor like paper. "How?" Red Wing demanded as his ships began exploding around Prima Station. "You're primitives. You barely understand space travel." "No," Kate replied. "We just let you think that. Humanity has been preparing for war since we first looked at the stars. Did you really think we'd just accept being your slaves?" The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the Council's mighty Prima Station was under human control, its defenders captured or destroyed. Red Wing found himself being led to a detention cell by human Marines wearing advanced battle armor that put Council designs to shame. Commander Stone met him at the cell door. "Remember when you called us useful primitives?" he asked. "You should have studied Earth's history. Every time someone tried to conquer us, we didn't just fight back. We learned. We adapted. We took their own weapons and made them better." "The Council will never stand for this," Red Wing sputtered. "The Council doesn't know yet," Stone replied. "By the time they realize what's happening here, we'll be ready for them too. You wanted soldiers. Well, congratulations. You've got them, just not the way you planned." As Red Wing was locked in his cell, he watched human crews efficiently taking control of the station. They moved with the confidence of warriors who had prepared for this moment for years. In the viewport beyond, Earth's primitive fleet stood guard, their weapons ready. The Council's greatest military base had fallen in a single day, captured by the very species they had planned to enslave. And this, Red Wing realized with growing horror, was only the beginning. Ambassador Mark Anderson walked into the grand chamber of the Galactic Council with measured steps. The massive room was filled with representatives from over 200 species, all watching him with a mixture of fear, anger, and, from some of the younger races, poorly hidden hope. The Council's emergency session had been called just hours after Earth's capture of Prima Station. The chamber, usually a place of quiet discussion, now buzzed with nervous energy. You stand accused of an act of war against the Council. First Speaker Blue Crest announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. How do you answer these charges? Mark placed a small device on his podium. Before I answer, I believe we should review some evidence. Holograms sprang to life throughout the chamber. Thousands of classified documents appeared in the air, records of the Council's true activities over centuries. What is this? Blue Crest demanded. This, Mark said calmly, is your history. The real one. Not the noble tales of galactic unity you tell, but the truth. Let's start with the Centauri people. Images showed a peaceful race being slowly stripped of their resources, their young forced into military service. Many council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Then there were the Ridge Traders, Mark continued, a species known for their merchant fleets, until the council decided they were more useful as transport crews in war zones. Half their population died in what you called training accidents. These documents are classified. A council member shouted. Yes, Mark agreed. They were, just like the plans you had for Earth. Plans we discovered, thanks to your own arrogance in thinking we couldn't access your systems. He touched his device again. New images appeared, the Council's detailed plans for exploiting Earth and its people. Humanity did not start this conflict, Mark declared. We simply refused to be your next victims. But while preparing our defense, we found something interesting. We weren't the only ones you planned to use. He gestured to the younger race's representatives, the Trade Federation of New Alpha, the mountain clans of Rigel, the free colonies of the Outer Rim. All of you were next on their list. Check your secure networks. We've already sent you the proof. The chamber erupted in chaos as dozens of representatives began accessing their data systems, finding the evidence Earth had planted. This is manipulation. Blue Crest shouted over the noise. No, Mark replied quietly. This is justice. For centuries, you've used younger races as pawns in your power games. You called us primitives, but we learned enough to see through your lies. And now everyone else can see them too. One by one, representatives of the younger races began standing. The mountain clan leader spoke first. The humans speak truth. We have found the Council's plans for our people. Others joined in, their voices growing stronger as centuries of fear began to fade. Order. Blue Crest called desperately. This is human trickery. Then explain these documents, the Trade Federation representative demanded. Explain why you plan to use our children as soldiers. Mark watched silently as the Council's unity cracked. Decades of careful planning were paying off. Earth hadn't just prepared militarily. They had gathered evidence, built alliances, and waited for the perfect moment to expose the Council's corruption. Earth does not seek to destroy the Council, Mark announced when the chaos subsided somewhat. We seek to reform it, to make it what it claims to be, a true union of equals. Those who stand with us will help build this new future. Those who stand against us. He let the threat hang in the air, while images of the captured Prima Station played above. You have 12 hours to consider your positions, Mark concluded. Earth and our allies await your response. He walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a council in turmoil. In his earpiece, Admiral Wells' voice came through. Well done, Ambassador. How many do you think will join us? Mark smiled slightly. More than half. The younger races have waited centuries for this chance. The Council's power structure is built on lies. And now those lies are exposed. And the ones who resist, they'll learn the same lesson as Prima Station, Mark replied. Humanity isn't just stronger than they thought. We're smarter too. And we've had years to prepare for this day. Behind him, the sounds of argument and accusation echoed from the Grand Chamber. The Council's perfect order was shattering, and from its ruins, a new galaxy would emerge. The Council's attack fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, over 3,000 ships strong. Led by military commander Greenscale, it was the largest fleet ever assembled in Council history. This will teach these primitives their place, Greenscale growled from his command ship. All ships, prepare for attack formation. Target their pathetic defenses and... Sir, his sensor officer interrupted. We're detecting something strange around Earth's orbit. The space around Earth was changing. Thousands of small objects, previously hidden as space debris, were coming alive. What the Council had dismissed as human space junk was transforming into a massive defense network. Commander Stone watched from Earth's orbital command center as humanity's true defenses activated. They took the bait, he said to Colonel Lisa Martinez, who commanded Earth's ground forces, just like we planned. All AI defense platforms online, the control room reported. Quantum shields at full power, hidden fleet elements moving into position. The Council fleet pushed forward, confident in their superior numbers. Their first wave of ships fired their most powerful weapons at Earth's orbital defenses. The attacks hit quantum shields that shouldn't have been possible with human technology. The energy was absorbed, redirected, and sent back at the attacking ships with doubled force. Impossible. Greenscale shouted as the first line of his fleet erupted in explosions. Their technology was primitive. We saw their facilities. You saw what we wanted you to see. Stone's voice came through on all Council channels. Did you really think those obvious research centers were our only facilities? The space around the Council fleet came alive. Swarms of AI-controlled fighters emerged from hidden positions in the asteroid belt. Each one was smaller than a Council shuttle, but packed with hybrid weapons that cut through Council shields like paper. Ground stations reporting multiple landing attempts, Colonel Martinez announced from her command bunker deep under Earth's surface. They're trying to bypass our space defenses. Show them our welcome, Stone ordered. As Council dropships entered Earth's atmosphere, they faced defenses that had been prepared for decades. Energy weapons hidden in mountains and under oceans opened fire. Electromagnetic pulses from disguised satellites disabled Council targeting systems. This is impossible. Greenscale raged as reports of failures flooded in. Their own technology shows they're barely past chemical rockets. No, Stone replied calmly. Our public technology shows that. We've been preparing for war since we first detected alien signals a century ago. Everything you saw was a carefully crafted deception. On the ground, Colonel Martinez watched through her combat visor as Council landing forces met Earth's troops. The aliens expected to find primitive soldiers with basic weapons. Instead, they faced warriors in powered armor suits, wielding weapons that combined the best of human and stolen Council technology. Push them back, Martinez ordered her forces. Show them what Earth's primitive soldiers can really do. The battle in space was turning into a slaughter. The Council fleet found itself caught between Earth's revealed defenses and the hidden fleet emerging from the dark side of the moon. Ships that had been disguised as mining vessels now showed their true power. Admiral Wells sends her regards. Stone transmitted as another wave of Council ships fell to Earth's defenses. She wanted to be here, but she's busy taking control of your core worlds while you wasted your fleet here. Greenscale's command ship shuddered as human weapons tore through its defenses. How? He demanded. How did we not see this? Because you saw humans as primitive beings to be used, Stone answered. You never considered that we might be smart enough to play along while preparing for this day. Your own arrogance blinded you. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it was over, the mighty Council fleet was in ruins. Greenscale found himself in a cell next to Redwing, both of them prisoners of the species they had planned to enslave. Colonel Martinez stood on a hill overlooking a battlefield littered with destroyed Council landing ships. Her troops were already helping captured Council soldiers, showing more mercy than the Council had planned to show Earth. Status report. Stone called from orbit. Martinez smiled behind her visor. Earth is secure, Commander. They never had a chance. Above, the stars sparkled with the light of battles as Earth's hidden fleets pressed their advantage across the galaxy. The Council's greatest attack had failed, broken against defenses they never knew existed. The age of Council dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. Blue Crest, first speaker of the Galactic Council, watched in horror as reports flooded into the Council's central chamber, not just from Earth, but from across the galaxy. The mountain clans have taken control of the Rigel sector, an aide reported. The Trade Federation is supporting them with ships we never knew they had. The Outer Rim colonies have declared independence, another voice called out. They're using Earth-supplied weapons to drive out Council forces. Blue Crest slumped in his ancient seat of power. In just 1 week, the Council's authority had crumbled. Earth hadn't just prepared itself for war. It had armed and trained other oppressed species in secret. Sir, a guard burst into the chamber. The worker species in the lower levels. They're rising up. They have weapons. The sounds of fighting echoed through the Council's mighty halls. The servant races, treated as little more than slaves for centuries, were finally fighting back. In his command center on Prima Station, Commander Stone coordinated the rebellion's efforts. Holographic displays showed hundreds of uprising across Council space. Report from Admiral Wells, his communications officer, announced. The Council's core defense fleet has surrendered. They're requesting terms. Stone nodded. Earth's plan was working perfectly. Not just the military victory, but the complete dismantling of the Council's power structure. Message from the mountain clans, another officer reported. Their forces have secured 3 more Council worlds. The local populations are supporting them. On one of those worlds, a Council governor watched in shock as his own security forces joined the rebels. Years of Earth's secret influence had turned them against their masters. Why? He asked his former guard captain. We gave you everything. No, the captain replied, using perfect English learned in secret from human teachers. You gave us chains and called them gifts. Earth showed us the truth and gave us the strength to break free. Back in the Council chamber, Blue Crest received the worst news yet. Sir, the Keeper archives have been breached. All Council secrets are being broadcast across the galaxy. Centuries of classified files, evidence of manipulation and crimes, were now public. Every species could see how the Council had used them, planned to use them, or would use them in the future. Ambassador Mark Anderson walked into the chamber, flanked by representatives from a dozen rebel species. He looked at Blue Crest with something close to pity. You could have had allies, he said quietly. Instead, you chose to create slaves. Did you really think they would serve you forever? How long? Blue Crest asked. How long has Earth been planning this? Since our first contact, Mark replied. We saw what you were, but instead of just defending Earth, we decided to help everyone you'd oppressed. Every worker you ignored, every soldier you used, every species you planned to exploit. We reached them all. The chamber's grand doors burst open. Council security forces rushed in, then stopped. Their weapons turned to face Blue Crest instead of the rebels. Even your own people, Mark continued, nodding to the security captain. You thought they were loyal because they were afraid, but we showed them a better way. Across the galaxy, the Council's carefully built empire was falling. Species that had been kept dependent on Council technology now revealed their own advancements, developed in secret with Earth's help. Races that had been played against each other were now fighting together. In Earth's orbital command, Stone watched the reports flow in. Centuries of Council dominance were ending in days, not through pure military might, but through careful planning, secret alliances, and a shared desire for freedom. Message from Colonel Martinez. His aide reported, "The last Council holdout on Earth has surrendered. Our home is secure." Stone looked at the strategic display, showing the galaxy transforming hour by hour. The Council's perfect order was being replaced by something new, something built on cooperation instead of control. "Send word to all Allied forces," he ordered. "The first phase is complete. Now we begin the real work, building a galaxy where no species will ever be called primitive again." In the Council chamber, Blue Crest watched his power crumble as former slaves and servants celebrated their freedom. Earth hadn't just defeated the Council's military, they had broken its very foundation of power. The age of Council dominance was truly over, brought down not just by Earth's weapons, but by the very peoples the Council had thought too primitive to fear. 1 month after the Council's fall, the great chamber that once housed the Galactic Council hosted a very different gathering. Commander Stone and Dr. Reed stood at the back, watching representatives from over 300 species file in for the signing of the Sol Accords. "Hard to believe it was once just Council members sitting in those seats," Reed said quietly. "Now look at them all." Former servant races sat beside their once masters. Species that the Council had kept apart for centuries now worked together. The chamber buzzed with dozens of languages, including many the Council had tried to eliminate. Ambassador Mark Anderson took the center platform, where the Council's first speaker had once ruled. Behind him, Admiral Wells and Colonel Martinez stood with leaders from the Mountain Clans, Trade Federation, and other former rebel groups. "The galaxy stands at a new beginning," Mark began, his voice carrying to all corners of the chamber. "The old Council ruled through fear and deception. They called many of us primitive, but their own fear of change proved them to be the truly primitive ones." In their holding cells, former Council leaders watched the broadcast. Red Wing and Green Scale sat in silence as their world changed forever. "The Sol Accords are simple," Mark continued. "Every species, regardless of their technology level or origin, has the right to develop in their own way. No more exploitation. No more forced service. No more lies about who is primitive and who is advanced." Dr. Reed smiled as he watched the proceedings. "Remember when we first found their technology?" he asked Stone. "They thought we'd take centuries to understand it. Their biggest mistake," Stone replied, "was thinking that technology alone makes a civilization advanced. They never understood that true advancement comes from how you treat others." On the platform, Mark held up the document that would reshape galactic society. "Under these accords, a new council will be formed. Not rulers, but representatives. Not masters, but equals. Each species will have a voice. Each culture will be protected." The chamber erupted in cheers. Species that had once been enemies embraced. Races that had been kept in artificial poverty now showed their true potential, sharing innovations they had developed in secret. "What about the former Council members?" someone called out. "They will face justice," Mark answered, "but not revenge. We're better than that. They'll be tried fairly, and their people will have the same rights as everyone else under the new laws." In the cells, Red Wing looked up at these words. "I don't understand," he said. "You have the power now. Why not destroy us completely?" The guard, a young human officer, smiled. "Because that's what you would have done. And we're not you." Back in the chamber, the signing began. One by one, representatives came forward to add their names to the Sol Accords. Former Council races signed alongside those they had once called primitive. New alliances were formalized, trade agreements established, and cultural exchanges planned. "Message from Earth," an aide whispered to Stone. "The first joint scientific expedition is ready to launch. Human scientists working alongside 6 other species to explore the galaxy's core." Stone nodded with satisfaction. This was what Earth had really been fighting for, not just freedom from Council rule, but the chance to build something better. Admiral Wells joined them at the back of the chamber. All former Council military bases are now under joint control, she reported. Their weapons are being redistributed to help species defend themselves, and our hidden fleets can stay hidden. Stone finished, just in case anyone else ever gets ideas about ruling the galaxy. The signing ceremony continued for hours as more species joined the new alliance. When it was done, Mark raised the signed document high. "Let this day be remembered," he declared, "not as the day the Council fell, but as the day we all rose together. Not as Earth's victory, but as freedom's triumph." The chamber filled with applause. In their cells, the former Council leaders finally understood their greatest mistake. They had seen humans as primitive beings to be used. Instead, humanity had become the force that united the galaxy. Stone and Reed watched as the new era began. Earth's revenge hadn't just been about defeating the Council. It had been about creating a future where no species would ever be called primitive again. The stars above the chamber seemed to shine brighter, witnessing the birth of a truly united galaxy. Humanity's greatest victory hadn't come from superior weapons or clever tactics, but from the simple belief that every species deserved the chance to reach for those stars as equals.